Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you for joining us again for our weekly session, meditation, a little bit of insights into what's going on, and allowing ourselves to prepare ourselves for the changing environment that we're all foisted into. So I thought today maybe I would discuss the nature of reality, and how the nature of reality and how we perceive reality can influence not just the quality of our life, but also the engagement of our life, but also the output of our life, right? So there's an element of um, uh, direct impact of, in fact, not element, it's fundamental that there's a direct impact of our perception of reality on our quality of life. And this perception of reality that we have is pretty much kind of schooled in us. It's reductionist, it's materialism. It tends to be focused on looking at existence as nothing more than just a machine, which is inert, which has no purpose, has no emotional content, no emotional component. And you and I are just simply um, just how would it be described? Just accidental living entities that happen to be in this phenomenally gigantic universe, which, according to the materialists and according to the reductionists, and according to the current um, worldview, whether it's Stephen Hawking's or anything like of that ilk, is all of this just spontaneously occurred, and it has been moving since it's occurred, and it occurred however billion years ago. And this is the reality of the nature of existence. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. So if you see existence as inert, as meaningless, as purposeless, then it really doesn't matter what you do. It really doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't really matter how you treat people. It doesn't really matter what you do with the environment. It doesn't really matter what you do with yourself, because really it's all, you're only a machine, and as a machine you function as a machine, and when you break down, they fix you up, they cut you up, they insert different things into you in order for you to realize, to become again the functioning machine that you are. This is obviously just the mindset that is foisted upon foisted through schooling onto young minds, and as a result, this then becomes the nature of reality according to your perception. Now we can take this stage a little bit further. We can take this a little bit further. Now, if your reality, my reality, is really something that is just doctored through perception, then those who can create perception, those who can create your paradigm, those who can influence the nature of how you see the world, can then obviously manage, manipulate, reinforce, and control how you operate within this particular existence. So, if we were to look at the nature of reality for what it was, you will realize very, very quickly that the nature of reality is nothing more than now. That's all there is. There is just this moment of now. And this moment of now is an unfolding moment, meaning that it is a moment that unfolds itself into the next moment. The next moment doesn't actually exist as much as we'd like to think that it exists, but it doesn't really exist until we consciously um, collapse that reality, and that then becomes our reality. So the act of observation um, is what influences the nature of the reality that you experience. So, for example, if we were all to be focusing on the dreaded virus that we had. You will find that that mindset that was foisted upon everyone, that was maintained, controlled, and propaganda used as propaganda and rhetoric just to maintain that particular worldview, very quickly created a level of fear in people, a level of concern in people, anxiety in individuals, which then modified their behavior. And that modification of behavior was what was the desired outcome, to the point that the modification of the behavior was such that individuals decided that they would take irreversible medical intervention. Irreversible meaning that it cannot be reversed. It cannot be reversed. Untested interventions, which we are now seeing the consequences of. How did this happen? Very, very simple. Change your perception, which modifies your behavior, and your behavior then not just harms oneself, but actually begins to harm those around us as well. So, the nature of reality, as you can see, is very malleable. It's very easy to control, it's very easy to shift. So, in order to ensure that we have some level of control over this, we have some level of being able to navigate through this, we first have to look at what do we really observably, experientially, and logically experience um, the unfolding nature of now. So think about this. Um, there was a past an hour ago, and there is no past at this moment. So no matter how much we'd like to think that there is a past that exists, but the reality is there is no such thing. And because if there was, then you and I can step back there. None of us can. The same is true for the future. However, the future is indeterminate. The past has determination, meaning that it has taken place and it had certain factors which were fundamental to that particular moment in time, which then move on to the next moment, and so on and so forth. The future itself, does not have that determination as per yet, because all that exists in is the moment of now. This moment now will become the next moment. So if we can influence our perception in the present moment now, then we can shift the future to reflect that particular perception. So if we individually and you can see the proof of what I'm saying, that that pandemic, sex scandemic, whatever you want to call it, that was just so deadly that everything and anything could have been killed and died if you touched it, breathed it, or anything else. All of a sudden just disappears. Just disappears. Well, where did it go? Well, you will realize that actually the perception was changed. The perception was switched off and a new perception was added. And this perception that was added, built upon, was to do with the war that's going on in various parts of the world. Again, this should be able to, we should be able to um, recognize that the same pattern has been used over and over and over and over again. Every few years, a new perception is created. That new perception always has certain fundamental characteristics. Primarily, it is fear based, primarily, it is division, primarily, it is that which um, allows the cultivation of self preservation at the expense of others. And this self preservation at the expense of others is really, again, nothing more than simply the perception that has been created in you and I and other individuals, which is the preservation of the ego. Now, you can see this going even further when you begin to recognize perceptions about gender, for argument's sake, yeah, where there are effectively two sexes, yet there is an infinite number of genders that can be created. Now, these are created simply through perception. And as a result of those perceptions, those individuals who then become the believers of that perception, whether it is an ideology, whether it's a religion, whether it is a political leaning, or whether it is self identification as a tomato plant, whatever you identify yourself with, that perception, the stronger that perception becomes, the more ingrained it becomes within you, the more likely it is to trigger your whole psychophysiological response. So this is the other way that one keeps one trapped within that matrix of artificially created perception. So when we talk about the matrix, really nothing more than a perception which allows you to be plugged into that particular worldview, and anything that's outside that worldview is ridiculed, kicked out, etc., etc., etc. Now, individuals in the East, particularly the mystic traditions of East, West, etc., have all noticed that the perception through experience, that perception is really nothing more than a lens. Actually, one through the cultivation of meditation, through the cultivation of self inquiry, that we can go through these layers of perception that have been created, called egoic sense of self, homme, hankar. These are the kind of technical terms within the Eastern worldview. That these layers of perception, as we begin to transcend them, we see them and we transcend them, we see them and we transcend them, we see them and we transcend them, coupled with experientially what we are seeing, experientially what is before us, and the fact that it is consistent. So you will notice that there is a process of creation. So, for example, you, I, and everyone else that is born and listening to this right now actually took their germination, their creative moment as a cell, a ovum and a sperm that got together, created an embryo, and those two cells then joined together, creating a whole range of other cells, which then through some signals, whether it's electrical, chemical, or biochemical, then create a whole range of different organs within ourselves, and those organs then become the eye, the ear, the nose, and so on and so forth. All of this began, if you see it, all of this began as a single cell, which then multiplied and off it went. So there is a process of creation. Now, there isn't a process of destruction. It's in fact a process of deconstruction, not destruction. Deconstruction. All that is being created is also deconstructed from the form that you have into other forms. And those forms can be, for example, say if something is burnt, the wood that was hard becomes the ash, and the vapor and various other things that as you heat, melt and dissolve and are released into the environment. So you will see that actually nothing is destroyed and nothing is actually created. It is simply a process of creativity and a process of deconstruction of that creativity into a reconstruction, deconstruction. So nothing actually dies and nothing actually lives. It's just simply a process of transformation that's taking place. And we can look at this around us, we can see this, and we will find that this is actually true. The second thing we will realize is all that is seen as material, all that is seen as hard, all that is seen as solid, actually is really just again a matter of perception. The further we look into it, the deeper we look into matter, we begin to recognize that actually matter is composed of electrons, protons, and neutrons. We then realize these are then composed of other particles, subatomic particles, etc. And the more deeper you move in, you will find that it's just endless, ultimately arising, ultimately coming to nothing more than charge, the change in electrical potential. So the universe, existence, all that you see around you is a electromagnetic existence that exists within fields upon fields upon fields upon fields. There is nothing solid. All that is around us is interacting and interrelated with everything else around us. Nothing lives, nothing stays by itself. So, once we begin to recognize the nature of reality being this phenomenal cosmos, phenomenal, go outside on a clear sky and have a look, and you will see that you and I, we sit right here on in whichever locality we're in, which is a based in a city, which is based in a country, which is based on the planet Earth, which is then part of the solar system, which is then part of the galaxies. And there are billions and billions and billions upon billions of solar systems, galaxies, that is just in our vicinity, the Milky Way, let alone what exists beyond that. So once we begin to comprehend the vastness of this cosmic space that we are so profoundly lucky to be able to witness through this consciousness here, right here and now, we realize that we, as little specks, are extremely meaningful in the vastness of existence, while most of the bullshit that we carry, most of the rubbish that we carry, most of the little problems that we carry are meaningless and insignificant. So life is significant, but the way we live our life and the way our perception is being doctored, and it's being doctored in many different ways and influenced and manipulated, most of this is just insignificant. It simply feeds into the power narratives and the power mongers game of control management, at their benefit and at your loss. So, as we move from this 2020, 21, 22, 23, we will begin to recognize that these abilities of those who had the control and the power and the access to create these perceptions, create this virtual reality amongst within ourselves, which can then be manipulated. This is falling apart. This is you're able to see through it now. And well, some are able to see through it now, just like those who stood up in their truth when all that pressure was being applied on them to take the irreversible poison. So, as this narrative has collapsed, all the other narratives that are now being foisted, whether it's the war, whether it's economic crisis, whether it is the energetic stuff, whether it is to do with food supplies, all of which is being manufactured, certainly the food and the energy and the political turmoil, all of this is manufactured. All of this is simply to maintain perception such that one is unable to wake up from those fear-based manipulation that's been going on. So as we move into 23, 24, and as more and more of this evidence begins to come through, you will find that those people who have been trapped in those perceptions, the believers, will have a very, very hard time. Why will they have a hard time? Is simply when you have vested your identity, your meaning in a perception created by another, the moment that perception goes pop, then the level of security, safety, sense of stability begins to dissolve. If you're lucky, it dissolves. But most of the time, it tends to be pop goes the bubble. And once the bubble goes, then the individual begins to fall down, begins to fall from their anchors, begins to lose their anchors, and that sense of falling, that sense of losing stability, safety, um, then begins to affect them in terms of their mental health, emotional health, and of course their physical health. From the world of schooling, where you are taught what to think rather than how to think, we are now moving into this Aquarian age, which is where we have to think for ourselves. So I began with what is the nature of existence, what is reality. Well, reality is the present moment. And if enough individuals, just think of it, enough individuals in a family have a perception, or create a perception that to do something or to see something or to view something, that becomes their reality. So as more and more individuals begin to see through the perceptions that have been created for them and see through them or see beyond them, we will begin to find that there is a cohesion, a level of cohesion that takes place, where a new experiential uh, engagement with life creates not a perception which is artificially created, but actually creates that which is embedded in the present moment, that which is embedded in the reality of the unfolding moment of now, that which is embedded, in which you allow yourself to be embedded. Now, most of the time, we fail to recognize. Although we say live in the present, you can't live anywhere else. There is no past you can live in, and there is no future you can live in. You can only exist now, here, right this moment. And by simply shifting the way we see the world, the way we see ourselves, we can shift how we experience life. We can shift not just how we experience life, but we can shift experience of life, quality of life, engagement in life, and most importantly, your output. And what do I mean by output? By output, I simply mean that when you breathe your last, will it have been worth it? Will all that you have done, with all the things that you've worried for, all the things that you felt were meaningful, do you really think that would be meaningful? So, as we become more and more grounded in the present moment, and more of these artificial constructs begin to fall apart, which they are, and this is what we're going through at the moment. It's been happening for a few years, but this is what we're going through. We will find that a new reality is possible, a new way of living is possible. However, how long it takes for us to achieve that will depend on you and me. If you and I do not challenge our current perceptions, and we don't need to do much, we just need to change, just need to turn our back from that which we know is bullshit. Yeah. As long as you turn your back, that whole agenda begins to fall apart. Hold those individuals who have created and engineered this, hold them accountable. Hold them accountable. And once we begin to hold them accountable, you will find life changes very, very, very quickly. We are now in that moment. We are now moving, as we're moving to 2023, 24, we will find 23 is going to be as challenging, if not more, as 22. And it'll be around 2024 when some level of balance will be restored. Although, having said that, it will take several years after that to really get a handle on what do we mean by balance. So, my takeaway from today, I would say to you, is do not believe your perceptions. Yeah. The very idea that you believe what you think to be true, whatever it is, you question yourself, you criticize yourself, and you believe what you say to yourself. The quicker we recognize that actually our most all our belief systems, every single belief system is a lie, and it's based on a doubt. Every single belief system. And the moment someone begins with a conversation with I believe, time to switch off, because beliefs mean nothing. Beliefs mean absolute rubbish. It is basically a fantasy, no truth in it. So, beliefs are those things that we adhere to when we don't have the experience or the understanding to recognize what is a fact, experiential, and what is a belief, the possibility of something. So we are now moving from the belief stuff to the experiential stuff. And that bit is going to be a little bit traumatic for most normies. And which is why those people who are awake and aware now have some responsibility to ensure that those individuals around you who begin to have these internal implosions are held with compassion and are guided through the changes that are now foisted upon us, not just because of what's going on politically and governmentally, but these changes are energetically, and it is cosmic energetic. And you can have a look at the sun, and you will find that the sun is white now, and it's no longer yellow or orange as your grandparents used to remember, or you used to remember when you were young. Why? Because there is a fundamental shift that is going on at a cosmic space, but certainly at our solar system. And the whole climate, global warming stuff, yes, climate change is happening because climate is change. Change is the nature of life, and you cannot stabilize, you cannot hold existence and say, I want existence to be exactly this. Doesn't work. Once again, the perception has been created and now it is being reinforced. But you will see soon enough, as the weather becomes a little bit more brutal, most of this will start to evaporate soon enough. Yes, there is change. That is the nature of life. That is the nature of climate. But it doesn't necessarily mean you and I are responsible for it. This is a far bigger phenomenon that takes place at a solar system, galactic space, uh, um, yeah, cosmic space, and not at your local space. And this arrogance that you and I can somehow influence the change in CO2, the volcano that blew in Hawaii, in one day, the amount of CO2 that it pushed into the atmosphere, we couldn't have done that over 500 years. So please don't buy into all the bullshit that everyone is foisting upon you. And time to think for yourself, time to become more sovereign, and going from this position of self-realization, self-actualization, self-realization, realizing you two and I are all part of this huge cosmic dance that's taking place. You are here for a purpose. I am here for a purpose. And this purpose is to enable the transition that humanity is currently now undergoing, as everything else is. So make sure you look after yourself, make sure that you have practices that you can take forward to 2023, which look after your mental immunity, your emotional immunity, physical immunity, but more importantly, also begin to cultivate this spiritual space, which is where most individuals will begin to focus once the stabilizing factors begin to dissolve. So we will now do a short meditation, and allow ourselves to find a little bit of peace in the present moment. So, as usual, we will do a heart coherence meditation today. It's a short one, but it's a very important one, and it's something that can be done anywhere, anytime. And I would recommend, if individuals can do this once or twice a day, you will find that after 2 or 3 weeks, it begins to have quite a profound effect on you. The practice is very simple. We become aware of our breath. We slow our breath, not once but twice. On the second time, you slow down your breath, and once you find that the breath is slow enough, it really is slow enough, we bring to our mind something that cultivates a positive emotion. So it could be someone you care about, someone you love, your pet, your best friend, your partner. Ideally, you want to do it with something that doesn't have any kind of emotional content beyond love or gratitude or compassion. And if you're unable to do any of that, then just the appreciation of the present moment, the anticipation of the next moment, is enough to sometimes cultivate this. So when you're ready, your eyes are closed, your mouth is closed, your back is straight and upright. And if you pull your shoulders back, ensuring that your chest feels open, and as you draw your next breath in, become aware of your body as best as you can. And notice if you feel comfortable. If there's a level of discomfort in you, adjust your posture. Next breath in, once again, becoming aware of your whole body as best as you can. And see if you can notice anything dominant. Could be an ache, a tightness, an itch. And now we're going to do a quick body scan just to allow our body to soften and relax. So begin with the top of your head. Imagine a hula hoop. Allow this hoop to descend downwards. And as it does so, it lights up your body for sensations. Your head, your face, from your neck down to your shoulders. And then scanning the top part of your body. The back, the front, the sides, all the way down to your seat. And then scanning your lower part of the body. Remember, you're looking for sensations. And if there's any sensations, you simply note where they are. Yeah. Next breath in, once again, just becoming aware of the whole body as best as you can, and notice if there's anything dominant in the body. Now bringing your focus to your breath. Hold your focus just beneath your nose. And this is a simple meditation that can be taught to children and adults alike. Your focus is now beneath your nose. Allow your breath to breathe by itself. Watching the in-breath moving in, watching the out-breath moving out. Next breath in, bring your focus to the seat that you're on. Notice that you're held in place. Notice that your back is straight and upright. And if you bring your focus now towards your eyes, notice the darkness. And as you breathe out, allow this part of the body to soften, bringing your focus now towards your mouth. Notice the sensations within your mouth, on the roof of your mouth. And then notice the sensations around the cheeks, does your tongue feel firm? Allow it to soften. And on your next breath out, allow your face to soften. When you're ready, place the palms of your hands against your chest. Left hand is first for men, right hand on top. For women, it's the right hand first, left hand on top. Allow the breath to breathe by itself. Hold your focus at your chest, where the palms make contact with your body. If you find your focus has drifted, gently bring it back, holding it just where the contact is being made between the palms of your hands and your chest. Now we're going to start adjusting our breath. As the breath comes in, see if you can count mentally 1 to 6. So it takes 6 seconds for the breath to move in, 6 seconds for the breath to move out. Six seconds for the breath to move in, 6 seconds for the breath to move out. Mentally counting 1 to 6 as you breathe in, mentally counting 1 to 6 as you breathe out. And we continue like this for a minute or two. 1 to 6 on the breath in, 1 to 6 on the breath out. Keep your focus on your palms. Breathing in 1 to 6, breathing out 1 to 6. And now begin to slow your breath down. So as you breathe in, the count is now 1 to 7. So it takes 7 seconds for the breath to move in, 7 seconds for the breath to move out, or whatever's comfortable for you. The objective simply being slowing the breath down. One to 7 on the breath in, 1 to 7 on the breath out. One to 7 on the breath in, 1 to 7 on the breath out. And now, as best as you can, see if you can slow the breath down a little bit more. 1 to 8 on the breath in, 1 to 8 on the breath out, or whatever's comfortable. Ensuring that you're slowing your breath down. One to eight on the breath in, 1 to 8 on the breath out. And you will begin to notice that the breath really does slow down. Now, when you're ready, bringing to your mind something that invokes gratitude, love, compassion, appreciation, positive. And if you bring someone to your mind that you feel love for, or compassion, or care, you'll begin to notice that there is a subtle change within you. Perhaps a level of warmth, lightness. We cultivate this change of feeling within us through gratitude, or love, or compassion. When you begin to notice that there is a change, a subtle change within you, doesn't have to be anything major, this is your signal. At this point, you draw a slow, deep breath in, filling the lower part of your abdomen, chest all the way up. Hold that breath, and when you're ready, relax, allowing the breath to escape from your mouth. Bringing your focus to yourself, allowing the body to breathe by itself. Notice how you feel within yourself. And you can hold this posture, maintain this, whether you're lying down or sitting up. First thing in the morning, last thing at night. And then just the intention to smile. Draw a slow, deep breath in again. And when you're ready, relax. Gently opening your eyes when you're ready.